Ethan Cole never imagined that the worst night of his life would start with a dead jaguar and end with a woman who could destroy him. Stranded on a rain-soaked highway outside Seattle, he had two choices: help the sharp-eyed stranger in the broken-down luxury car, or make it to the blind date that might be his last chance at something more than survival. He chose wrong, or maybe he chose right, because the woman he pulled from the storm turned out to be the exact person waiting for him at that restaurant. A billionaire CEO with secrets darker than the night itself, and a connection so immediate it felt like fate had been watching them both for years. If you believe in second chances built on shattered glass and honesty that cuts deeper than lies, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. And let me show you what happens when two people who've lost everything find each other in the wreckage. The rain hit Ethan Cole's windshield like gravel thrown by an angry hand. He squinted through the smeared glass, gripping the steering wheel of his beat-up Ford pickup as the wipers fought a losing battle against the downpour. The highway stretched dark and empty ahead, nothing but wet asphalt and the occasional flash of distant lightning over the Cascade foothills. He was already 20 minutes late. His phone buzzed again in the cup holder, probably Jessica, his well-meaning but relentless neighbor, checking to make sure he hadn't bailed on the blind date she'd orchestrated with the enthusiasm of a matchmaker who'd seen too many rom-coms. Ethan ignored it. He was going, he'd promised, but that didn't mean he had to be happy about it. The truth was, he couldn't afford to be out tonight at all, not with the mortgage payment on the garage 3 weeks overdue, and Lily's school fees stacking up like a hand of cards he couldn't bluff his way out of. But Jessica had cornered him 2 weeks ago while he was elbow-deep in a transmission rebuild, insisting that he needed to get back out there, and that this woman, some friend of her yoga instructor's cousin, or something equally convoluted, was perfect for him. Ethan doubted that. He doubted most things these days. He pressed harder on the gas, watching the speedometer climb past 60. The restaurant reservation was for 7:30, and it was already 7:45. The place was one of those sleek downtown spots where the menu didn't list prices, and the waiters looked at you like they could smell the oil stains on your work boots no matter how hard you scrubbed. He hated places like that. But he'd put on his one decent button-down shirt, the navy one Lily said made him look like a real grown-up, and he'd left her with Jessica's teenage daughter for the night. The least he could do was show up. The lightning cracked again, closer this time, and Ethan's headlights caught something up ahead, a dark shape on the shoulder of the road, barely visible through the sheets of rain. He eased off the gas, frowning. As he got closer, the shape resolved into a car. A very nice car, low and sleek, the kind of vehicle that cost more than his entire business. A vintage Jaguar E-Type, if he wasn't mistaken. British racing green, maybe a 67 or 68, and it was sitting dead on the side of the highway with its hazard lights blinking weakly. Ethan's foot hovered over the brake pedal. He should keep driving. He was already late. Whoever owned a car like that could afford roadside assistance, probably had a membership to some luxury service that would send a flatbed and a bottle of champagne. But then he saw the figure standing beside the car. A woman. Tall, even in the rain. She wasn't waving for help or holding up a phone. She was just standing there, arms crossed, staring at the Jaguar like she was personally offended by its failure to function. Ethan cursed under his breath and pulled onto the shoulder. He left the engine running, flipped on his own hazards, and pushed open the door. The rain hit him immediately, cold and sharp, soaking through his shirt in seconds. He jogged toward the Jaguar, raising a hand. "Hey, you need help?" The woman turned, and Ethan's words caught in his throat. She was beautiful. Not in the soft, approachable way that made you comfortable, but in the kind of way that made you forget what you were about to say. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail that was somehow still perfect despite the rain, and eyes that studied him with the focus of someone used to making decisions worth millions of dollars in a split second. She wore a black coat that probably cost more than his truck, and heels that had no business being on the side of a highway in a storm. "My car broke down," she said, her voice cool and clipped, like she was stating an obvious fact to someone who might be too slow to notice. Ethan blinked rain out of his eyes. "Yeah, I can see that. You call anyone?" "My phone's dead." She gestured toward the Jaguar with one elegant hand. "And apparently, so is this." He moved closer, eyeing the car. "What happened?" "It just stopped." She frowned, and for a moment something almost human flickered across her face. Frustration, maybe, or embarrassment. "I was driving, and then I wasn't." Ethan crouched beside the driver's door, peering inside. The interior was immaculate, cream leather, polished wood trim, The kind of restoration work that took serious money and even more serious obsession. He straightened and popped the hood, or tried to. It took him a second to find the release. "You know anything about cars?" he asked. "I know how to drive them." "That's not the same thing." "I'm aware." He lifted the hood and leaned in, using his phone's flashlight to illuminate the engine. The rain pounded on his back, but he ignored it, scanning the components with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent half his life under hoods just like this one. The engine was pristine. Someone had loved this car. But love didn't keep fuel pumps from dying or ignition coils from failing. "When's the last time you had this serviced?" he called over his shoulder.
"I don't know. My mechanic handles that." "Your mechanic's not doing a great job." There was a pause. When she spoke again, her voice had an edge to it. "Can you fix it or not?" Ethan straightened, wiping rain off his face. "Maybe. Depends on what's wrong. Could be the fuel pump. Could be electrical. Could be something else entirely." That's not very reassuring. It's honest.
She studied him for a long moment, and Ethan had the uncomfortable feeling that she was cataloging every detail: his soaked shirt, his scuffed boots, the grease permanently embedded under his fingernails no matter how hard he scrubbed. "How much?" she asked finally. "How much what?" "To fix it. Here. Now." Ethan glanced at his watch. 7:52. He was officially screwed on the blind date, but if he could get this woman back on the road in the next 20 minutes, maybe he could still salvage the night. Show up late, apologize, buy a drink, see if Jessica's mystery woman was willing to forgive him. Or he could stand here in the rain and try to resurrect a vintage Jaguar with no tools and no guarantee of success. "I don't know if I can fix it here," he said. "I'd need to get it back to my shop, run some diagnostics." "I'll pay you $1,000. Ethan's brain stuttered. "What?" $1,000 cash, if you can get it running tonight." He stared at her. $1,000. That was the mortgage payment. That was Lily's school fees and the overdue electric bill, and maybe enough left over to buy his daughter the new winter coat she needed because she'd outgrown last year's and kept pretending she hadn't. "I don't have my tools," he said slowly. "You have a toolbox in your truck." "I can see it." Ethan followed her gaze. She was right. The beat-up red toolbox was visible through his rear window, rattling around in the truck bed like it always did. He looked back at her. "Who are you?" "Does it matter?" "It might." She hesitated, and for the first time something in her expression shifted. A crack in the armor, small but real. "My name is Vivian." "Ethan." He held out his hand, then realized it was covered in grime and rain and pulled it back. "Sorry." "Don't be." She didn't move to shake it anyway. "Can you do it or not?" Ethan thought about the restaurant, the reservation, the woman he was supposed to meet, Jessica's disappointed face when he inevitably told her it hadn't worked out. Then he thought about Lily and the mortgage and the fact that his father's garage, the last real thing his old man had left him, was slipping through his fingers no matter how hard he held on. "Yeah," he said. "I can try." Check it. 20 minutes later, Ethan was flat on his back under the Jaguar, with a flashlight clenched between his teeth and rain dripping through the undercarriage onto his face. Vivian stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching him work with the silent intensity of someone used to observing others perform tasks she'd never have to do herself. "It's the fuel pump," he called out, his voice muffled. "Line's clogged. Probably picked up some debris from the tank. Can you fix it?" "I can clear it. It'll get you where you're going, but you'll need a full service soon. This thing's overdue." "Fine." Ethan slid out from under the car, wiping his hands on his already ruined jeans. He dug through his toolbox, pulled out a length of rubber hose and a small hand pump, and got back to work. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the wind had picked up, cutting through his wet clothes like a blade. "You do this for a living?" Vivian asked. "Yeah." "You're good at it." He glanced up at her, surprised. "Thanks." That wasn't a compliment. It was an observation. "Right." He turned back to the engine. "What do you do?" "I run a company." "What kind of company?" "The kind that makes money." Ethan bit back a laugh. "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." He worked in silence for a few more minutes, rerouting the fuel line and clearing the blockage. When he turned the ignition, the engine coughed once, then roared to life with the deep, throaty purr of a machine that had been built back when cars were still art. Vivian's face didn't change, but something in her posture relaxed. "There you go," Ethan said, shutting the hood. "You're good to go."
But seriously, get this thing looked at. Whoever your mechanic is, fire him.
I'll take that under advisement. She pulled a sleek wallet from her coat pocket, counted out 10 crisp $100 bills, and held them out. Ethan stared at the money. It felt surreal, standing on the side of a highway in the rain, holding a small fortune for 20 minutes of work he'd have done for free just to see the car run again. You don't have to take it. He took it. Vivian slid into the driver's seat, her movements precise and controlled. She glanced up at him through the open window. Where were you going before you stopped? Blind date. Her eyebrow arched just slightly. You're late. Yeah. She's not going to wait. Probably not. Vivian's lips twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. Good luck, Ethan. And then she was gone, the Jaguar's taillights disappearing into the drizzle like a ghost. Ethan stood there for a long moment, the bills still clutched in his hand, wondering what the hell had just happened. Then he climbed back into his truck, cranked the heat, and checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Jessica, 2 texts. Where are you? She's here. Don't blow this. He stared at the messages, then at the money, then back at the road. He should go home. Apologize to Jessica tomorrow. Count this as another failure in a long line of them. But something stubborn in him, maybe the same part that refused to sell his father's garage no matter how bad things got, made him put the truck in gear and head toward downtown. He was an hour late, soaked to the bone, covered in grease and smelling like motor oil. But he'd made a promise. It's sad. The restaurant was the kind of place that made Ethan's jaw tighten the moment he walked through the door. All low lighting and soft music with tables spaced far enough apart that you couldn't accidentally overhear someone else's conversation. The hostess looked him up and down with barely concealed horror. Can I help you? Reservation under Cole. I'm late. She tapped something into her tablet, her expression suggesting that she'd rather call security than seat him. Your party is already here. Follow me. Ethan trailed her through the dining room, acutely aware of the stairs. His boots squeaked on the polished floor. His shirt clung to him, still damp, and he was pretty sure there was a streak of grease across his jaw. The hostess stopped at a corner table, and Ethan's brain short-circuited. Because sitting there, glass of red wine in hand, looking just as shocked as he felt, was Vivian. She stared at him. He stared at her. The hostess cleared her throat. Your table, sir. Ethan sank into the chair across from Vivian, his mind racing. The blind date. Jessica's friend's yoga instructor's cousin. The woman he was supposed to meet. It was her. Vivian recovered first. She set down her wine glass with a soft clink, her expression smoothing back into that controlled mask he'd seen on the highway. You're late. I stopped to help someone on the side of the road. How inconvenient for you. She paid me $1,000. Generous. They stared at each other. Then, impossibly, Vivian's mouth quirked up at one corner. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. This is absurd. Yeah, Jessica didn't mention you were a mechanic. Jessica didn't mention you were... He gestured vaguely at her, at the restaurant, at the designer coat draped over the back of her chair. Whatever you are. A CEO. Right. A waiter appeared at Ethan's elbow, radiating disapproval. Can I get you started with a drink, sir? Ethan glanced at the menu. No prices, of course. Water's fine. We have sparkling or tap is great. The waiter's smile could have cut glass. Of course. When he left, Vivian leaned back in her chair, studying Ethan with that same unnerving focus she'd used on the highway. You should probably go clean up. I should probably leave. Why? Because I'm covered in grease, soaking wet, and an hour late. And because you... He stopped, trying to find the right words. You don't want to be here any more than I do. That's true. So why are we doing this? Vivian picked up her wine glass again, swirling it gently. Jessica is persistent. Tell me about it. She cornered me at a charity gala last month, insisted I needed to meet someone real. She said the word like it was foreign to her. Apparently I've been dating the wrong kind of men. Have you? Yes. The waiter returned with Ethan's water and a look that suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. Are you ready to order? Vivian glanced at Ethan. He looked down at the menu. Descriptions like pan-seared diver scallops with butternut squash puree and truffle oil that told him absolutely nothing about what he'd actually be eating. I have no idea what any of this is, he admitted. The waiter's expression turned pitying. Perhaps I could recommend We're leaving, Vivian said. Ethan blinked. What? She stood, pulling on her coat in one smooth motion. This place is terrible. The wine is overpriced, the music is insipid, and I have no interest in spending the next hour pretending to enjoy food I can't pronounce. She looked at Ethan. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. They have burgers. You want to go to a diner? I want to have a conversation that doesn't make me want to put my head through a wall. Coming? Ethan stood slowly, still processing. The waiter looked like he might faint. Yeah, Ethan said. Okay. That's. The diner was called Lucky's, and it was the exact opposite of the restaurant they'd just abandoned. Bright fluorescent lights, cracked vinyl booths, a laminated menu that had clearly been wiped down 1,000 times. The smell of grease and coffee hung in the air like a welcome. They slid into a corner booth. A waitress with a name tag that read Doreen appeared almost immediately, looking supremely unbothered by Vivian's designer coat or Ethan's disheveled appearance. What can I get you, hun? Cheeseburger, Vivian said. Extra pickles, fries, and coffee. Doreen turned to Ethan. Same. You got it. When she left, Vivian shrugged out of her coat and folded it neatly beside her. Without it, she looked smaller somehow. Still sharp, still composed, but more human. So, Ethan said, this is weird. Extremely. How did Jessica even set this up? She's apparently friends with my assistant. They go to the same yoga class. Vivian shook her head. I agreed because it seemed easier than arguing. I didn't think I'd actually show up. But you did. I was curious. She met his eyes. And lonely, if I'm being honest. The word hung between them, raw and unexpected. Yeah, Ethan said quietly. Me too. Doreen returned with 2 mugs of coffee, thick and black and probably strong enough to strip paint. Vivian wrapped her hands around hers, staring into it like it held answers. Tell me about your daughter, she said. Ethan's eyebrows shot up. How do you... Jessica mentioned it. 7 years old, right? Lily. Yeah. He couldn't help the smile that crept onto his face. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Smart as hell, stubborn as hell. She wants to be a mechanic when she grows up, which her teacher thinks is limiting her potential, but I think is the best idea she's ever had. She lives with you? Full time. Her mom's not in the picture. Vivian nodded slowly. That must be hard. Some days more than others. He took a sip of coffee. It burned all the way down. What about you? Kids? No. Marriage? Almost. Once. It didn't work out. What happened? She was quiet for a long moment. He wanted me to be smaller, not physically, smaller in every other way that mattered. I refused. Good. Her eyes snapped to his. Good? Anyone who wants you to be smaller doesn't deserve you in the first place. Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. Before she could respond, Doreen arrived with their burgers, thick and messy and perfect. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, and Ethan couldn't remember the last time food had tasted this good. Or maybe it wasn't the food. Maybe it was the fact that he wasn't trying to impress anyone, wasn't performing some version of himself that he thought someone else wanted to see. So, Vivian said eventually, wiping grease off her fingers with a napkin. Mechanic. Your own shop? Yeah, my dad's, originally. He passed 3 years ago. I'm sorry. Thanks. Ethan stared at his plate. The shop's not doing great. I'm good at the work, but I'm terrible at the business side of things. Bills keep piling up faster than I can pay them. Have you thought about selling? Every day. He looked up at her. But I can't. It's the last thing I have of him, you know? The last proof that he was here, that he built something that mattered. Vivian nodded slowly. I understand that. My father built a company from nothing. When he died, everyone expected me to sell it, take the money, live off the inheritance. I kept it instead, grew it, made it mine. What kind of company? Mercer Industries. We do commercial real estate development mostly. Some tech investments. Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. You're Vivian Mercer. You've heard of me. There was an article in the business section last month. Something about a hostile takeover you shut down. He shook his head. You're kind of famous. I'm kind of notorious. She smiled, and it was the first real smile he'd seen from her. It transformed her face completely. People think I'm ruthless. Are you? When I need to be. And the rest of the time? I'm just tired. The honesty in her voice caught him off guard. He reached across the table, almost without thinking, and covered her hand with his. She didn't pull away. You don't seem tired right now, he said. No, she agreed softly. I don't. They stayed like that for a moment, hands touching, the noise of the diner fading into background static. Then Vivian pulled back, clearing her throat. Tell me something true, she said. Something you don't tell people. Ethan thought about it. I'm terrified I'm failing Lily. That she's going to grow up and realize her dad couldn't keep it together, couldn't give her the life she deserves. You're not failing her. You don't know that. I know you stopped in the rain to fix a stranger's car even though you were late for something important. I know you talk about her like she hung the moon. That's not failure. Ethan swallowed hard. Your turn. Vivian looked down at her hands. I'm terrified that I'm so good at being alone that I've forgotten how to be anything else. That I've built these walls so high no one will ever want to climb them. I climbed them. She looked up, and her eyes were bright. You did, didn't you? Wasn't that hard? You opened the door. Did I? On the highway, when you told me your name. Vivian laughed, soft and surprised. That's a low bar for vulnerability. You'd be surprised how many people can't even clear it. They talked for another hour. 2. Ethan lost track of time somewhere between Vivian's story about firing a board member who'd called her sweetheart in a meeting and his story about the time Lily had taken apart the toaster to see how it worked and nearly electrocuted herself in the process. It was easy. That was the thing that kept surprising him. Talking to her was easy in a way nothing else in his life had been for a long time. When they finally left the diner, it was past midnight. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and shining under the streetlights. Vivian's Jaguar was parked down the block, looking wildly out of place next to Ethan's beat-up truck. They stood there on the sidewalk, neither quite ready to leave. Thank you, Vivian said, for tonight, for fixing my car, for not running away when you realized who I was. Thank you for the burger. She smiled. We should do this again. Yeah? If you want to. I want to. Vivian pulled out her phone, handed it to him. Put your number in. He did, his fingers clumsy on the screen. When he handed it back, their hands brushed, and he felt that same electric jolt he'd felt under the highway lights. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Vivian. She walked to her car, heels clicking on the wet pavement. Before she got in, she turned back. For what it's worth, she called. I think you're doing just fine. With Lily. With everything. Then she was gone, the Jaguar purring off into the night, and Ethan stood alone on the empty street, grinning like an idiot. For the first time in 3 years, the future didn't feel quite so heavy. Ethan woke up the next morning to Lily sitting cross-legged at the foot of his bed, staring at him with the intensity of a detective trying to crack a case. You're being weird, she announced. He groaned and pulled the pillow over his face. It's Sunday. Go away. You smiled at your phone last night 3 times. I counted. That's called invasion of privacy. That's called you have a girlfriend and you're trying to hide it. But you're really bad at hiding things. She poked his leg through the blanket. Jessica says you went on a date with someone fancy and that you showed up late and soaking wet like some kind of movie character. Ethan sat up, rubbing his face. Jessica talks too much. Jessica makes good pancakes and tells me interesting stuff about your life that you never tell me yourself. Lily tilted her head. So, is it true? Do you have a girlfriend? I don't know what I have. That's a yes. That's a maybe. What's her name? Ethan sighed, knowing he wasn't going to win this. Vivian? Is she nice? Yeah, she is. Does she know about cars? Not really, but she drives a 1967 Jaguar E-Type that's worth more than our house. Lily's eyes went wide. Can I see it? Maybe someday. Is she pretty? Very. Is she going to come over? I don't know yet, Lil. We're figuring things out. Lily studied him for a long moment, her expression serious in that way that made her seem much older than 7. Are you happy? The question caught him off guard. What? Are you happy? When you talk about her, you look different, less tired. Ethan pulled her into a hug, pressing his face into her hair. Yeah, kiddo, I think I might be. Good. You should be happy more. Working on it. When they went downstairs, Jessica was already in the kitchen, because apparently she'd just claimed permanent residence in his house at some point, and he'd missed the memo. She was scrambling eggs and humming something off-key, looking far too pleased with herself. "Morning, lovebird," she said without turning around. "I'm not a lovebird. You texted someone good night with a smiley face last night. You're absolutely a lovebird." "How do you even know that?" "Lily told me." Ethan shot his daughter a look of betrayal. She shrugged, completely unrepentant, and sat down at the table. Jessica set plates in front of them and finally turned to face him, her expression shifting from teasing to something more serious. "So, you going to see her again?" "Yeah, this afternoon, actually." "Where?" "Her office." Jessica's eyebrows went up. "Her office? That's formal." "She wants to talk about something." "About what?" Ethan hesitated. He hadn't told Jessica about the garage situation yet, about how close he was to losing everything. Pride, maybe, or shame, or just the bone-deep exhaustion of admitting out loud that he was failing at the one thing his father had trusted him to protect. "Business stuff," he said finally. Jessica didn't push, but the look she gave him said they'd be having a longer conversation about this later, whether he wanted to or not. After breakfast, Ethan spent the morning in the garage, trying to distract himself by working on the Mustang. Lily helped, handing him tools and asking 1,000 questions about fuel injection and compression ratios. She was getting good at this, he realized. Really good. She understood engines the way some kids understood math or music, intuitively, like she could see how all the pieces fit together before anyone explained it to her. "Dad?" she said, lying on her back under the chassis beside him. "Yeah? When I grow up, can I work here? With you?" His chest went tight. "If that's what you want." "It's what I want." "Then yeah, absolutely." She was quiet for a moment, the only sound the clink of metal on metal. Then, "Promise you won't sell it?" Ethan went still. "Why would you think I'd sell it? I heard you on the phone last week talking to someone about money. You sounded scared." He closed his eyes, hating that she'd heard that, hating that he'd been careless enough to let her overhear. "I'm not selling the garage, Lily. I promise." "Even if things get bad?" "Even then." It was a promise he wasn't entirely sure he could keep, but he said it anyway, because she needed to hear it and because he needed to believe it himself. At 1:30, he cleaned up, changed into the least oil-stained clothes he owned, dark jeans and a button-down shirt that Lily immediately declared made him look like a real adult, and headed downtown. The Mercer Industries building looked even more intimidating in daylight. All glass and steel and sharp angles, the kind of place that made you feel like you needed a college degree just to walk through the lobby. Ethan parked his beat-up truck in the visitor lot, trying not to notice the Teslas and BMWs surrounding it like they were embarrassed to be seen with it. The security guard at the front desk barely looked up. "Name?" "Ethan Cole. I'm here to see Vivian Mercer." The guard typed something, waited, then nodded. "Executive floor, elevators on your right." The elevator was glass-walled and smooth, rising so fast Ethan's ears popped. Through the transparent walls, he watched the city spread out below. The sound glittering in the distance, ferries cutting white lines through the water, the market district clustered near the piers. By the time the elevator opened on the 15th floor, his hands were sweating. The reception area was all clean lines and expensive furniture. A woman in her early 30s sat behind a sleek desk, her fingers flying across a keyboard. She looked up and smiled. "Mr. Cole?" "Yeah." "Ms. Mercer's expecting you. Last door on the left." Ethan nodded and walked down the hallway, his boots silent on the plush carpet. The walls were covered with framed photographs, buildings, groundbreakings, Vivian shaking hands with people who looked important, awards in glass cases, evidence of a life built on success and control and relentless forward motion. He knocked on the door at the end of the hall. "Come in." Vivian's office was absurd. One wall was entirely windows, floor to ceiling, overlooking the water and the mountains beyond. Her desk was massive and pristine, covered in neat stacks of files and 2 large computer monitors. But what stopped him was Vivian herself. She was standing by the windows, barefoot, her blazer draped over the back of her chair. She wore a white blouse and dark slacks, her hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back. She looked younger like this, less armored. "Hi," she said. "Hi." She crossed the room and kissed him, quick and certain, like it was the most natural thing in the world. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "You look nice." "Lily said I look like a real adult. I'm choosing to take that as a compliment." Vivian laughed. "How is she?" "Suspicious. She asked if I have a girlfriend." "What did you tell her?" "That I don't know what I have." "Fair answer."
Vivian took his hand and led him to a leather couch by the windows.
Sit. I want to talk to you about something. Ethan sat, and she poured 2 glasses of water from a pitcher on the coffee table, handing him one before settling beside him. She looked nervous, he realized. Actually nervous. It was strange seeing her like this, without the cool confidence she wore like armor. I meant what I said the other night, she started, about wanting to help. But I know you well enough already to know you're not going to just take money from me. Vivian,
let me finish. She set her glass down. I have a fleet of company vehicles, 37 cars, sedans for executives, SUVs, a few specialty vehicles. They need regular maintenance. The shop we've been using is incompetent. They overcharge, they miss deadlines, and last month they returned one of our cars with the wrong transmission fluid. I need someone reliable. And you think that's me? I know it is. I saw what you did with my Jaguar. That wasn't luck or coincidence. That was skill and knowledge and the kind of attention to detail most mechanics don't have. Ethan leaned back, trying to process what she was offering. What are you proposing exactly?
A contract. Your garage becomes the exclusive maintenance provider for Mercer Industries' vehicle fleet. Regular servicing, repairs, emergency callouts when needed. In exchange, you get a retainer up front to cover immediate expenses, plus monthly payments for ongoing work. How much are we talking? Vivian pulled a folder from the table and handed it to him. I had legal draft something preliminary. Ethan opened it and felt his stomach drop. The retainer was $25,000. The monthly payments after that would bring in more steady income than he'd seen in the past year combined. This is too much, he said. It's market rate for the volume of work I'm asking for. Vivian, I can't. Yes, you can.
She took the folder from him and set it aside. Listen to me. This isn't charity. This is me making a smart business decision. I need quality work from someone I can trust. You need steady income. That's it. That's the entire equation. And the fact that we're, whatever this is between us, that doesn't complicate things? Only if we let it.
Ethan stood and walked to the windows, staring out at the city stretching endlessly in every direction. His garage was out there somewhere, struggling and half-broken, held together with duct tape and stubbornness. His daughter was at home, trusting him to keep the roof over her head and the lights on and the world steady beneath her feet. And here was Vivian, offering him a way to do all of that. But taking it felt like admitting he'd failed, like admitting he wasn't strong enough or smart enough or good enough to save his father's legacy on his own. I don't want you to think I'm using you, he said quietly. Vivian came up beside him. I don't. How can you be sure? Because if you were, you would have said yes immediately instead of standing here trying to talk yourself out of it. She touched his arm. Ethan, I've dealt with people trying to use me my entire adult life. Men who wanted access to my money, or my connections, or my influence. I know what that looks like. And this isn't it. What is it then? It's 2 people helping each other in a way that makes sense for both of them. She turned him to face her. You're good at what you do, better than you give yourself credit for. And I need that. So stop thinking of this as me rescuing you and start thinking of it as a partnership. A partnership. Yes. He searched her face, looking for any trace of pity or condescension. All he saw was certainty and something that might have been hope. Okay, he said. Yes. Vivian's smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. Good. I'll have legal finalize everything. You should have the contract and the first payment by Wednesday. Just like that? Just like that. She kissed him again, slower this time. Now come on. I want to show you something. She led him through a side door into a smaller room, a private lounge with leather furniture, a full bar, and more windows. She poured 2 glasses of bourbon and handed him one. To partnerships, she said, raising her glass. To not screwing this up, he countered. They drank, and Ethan felt some of the weight he'd been carrying for months start to lift. Maybe this could work. Maybe he didn't have to do everything alone. Tell me about your week, Vivian said, settling onto the couch. So he did. He told her about Lily's latest obsession with figuring out how to rebuild a carburetor, about Jessica's ongoing campaign to get him to live a little, about the Mustang project that was slowly bankrupting him because the owner had disappeared halfway through and left him holding the pieces. Vivian listened without interrupting, her attention completely focused on him in a way that made him feel like he was the only person in the world who mattered. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. I want to meet her, she said finally. Ethan blinked. What? Lily. I want to meet her, if you're comfortable with that. His heart did something complicated in his chest. You do? If this is going somewhere, and I'd like it to, then yeah. I want to meet the person who matters most to you. I don't know if that's a good idea yet. We've only known each other a few days. I know, and I'm not trying to rush anything, but I also don't want to be some separate part of your life that never intersects with the real parts. If we're doing this, I want to do it right. Ethan thought about Lily's question that morning. Does she know about cars? Is she nice? The curiosity in her voice, the hope. Okay, he said. Yeah, how about next weekend? We could do something casual, take her to the aquarium or something. I haven't been to the aquarium in 15 years. Then it's time. Vivian smiled, but there was uncertainty in it, vulnerability. What if she doesn't like me? She will. You don't know that. I know my kid. She's going to ask you 1,000 questions about your Jaguar and probably try to convince you to let her take apart the engine. You'll be fine. I have no idea how to talk to children. Just talk to her like she's a person. She'll appreciate that more than anything else. They sat there drinking bourbon and talking until the light outside started to fade to orange and gold. Vivian told him about her week, the conference calls with international offices, the acquisition deal that had fallen through at the last minute, the board member who'd questioned her judgment in a meeting and then backtracked when she'd demolished his argument with facts and figures he hadn't bothered to research. He apologized afterward, she said, but only because he realized other people had heard him doubt me, not because he was actually sorry. That must get exhausting. It does, but it's the price of being taken seriously. She swirled her bourbon. There's a man who runs a competing firm, Richard Ashford. He's been trying to undermine me for years. Why? Because I beat him to a development deal in Vancouver 5 years ago, and he's never forgiven me. Because he thinks a woman has no business running a company this size. Because he's a petty, vindictive man who can't stand that someone he considers beneath him is more successful than he'll ever be. Take your pick. What's he doing now? Trying to poach my executives, spreading rumors that the company's in financial trouble. Nothing I can't handle, but it's irritating. She looked at him. He'll probably find out about you eventually, about us, and he'll use it as ammunition somehow. Let him. You say that now, I mean it. I don't care what some billionaire thinks about me. Vivian's expression softened. Most men would. I'm not most men. No, you're really not. Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. It buzzed again. He pulled it out, frowning at the unfamiliar number. Sorry, I should check this. Go ahead. He stepped into the hallway and answered. Hello? Mr. Cole? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. This is Margaret Chen from First National Bank. I'm calling regarding your commercial mortgage account ending in 4738. His stomach dropped. Yeah. Your account is currently 93 days past due. We've sent multiple notices to your registered address, but haven't received any response. I'm calling to inform you that if payment isn't received by end of business this Wednesday, we'll have no choice but to initiate foreclosure proceedings. The hallway tilted. I've been working on getting the money together. I understand, Mr. Cole, but we need confirmation of payment or a concrete payment plan by Wednesday. Otherwise, our hands are tied. How much do I need? The past due amount plus late fees and penalties comes to $18,412. Ethan closed his eyes. Okay, I'll figure something out. Please contact me directly if you have any questions. My direct line is on the notices we've sent. I hope we can resolve this, Mr. Cole. Yeah, me too. He ended the call and stood there in the hallway, staring at nothing. Wednesday. He had 3 days to come up with $18,000 or lose everything his father had built. When he went back into the lounge, Vivian took one look at his face and stood. What happened? That was the bank, about the garage. And? I have until Wednesday to pay what I owe, or they start foreclosure. How much? $18,000, give or take. Vivian didn't hesitate. The retainer from the contract will cover that. Vivian, I can't. Yes, you can. That's exactly what it's for. She crossed to him and took his hands. This is why I'm offering you the contract, so you don't have to lose the thing that matters most to you. But if I take it, then what? You get to keep your garage? You get to keep providing for Lily? Those sound like good outcomes to me. Ethan pulled away, pacing to the windows. You don't understand. My dad never missed a payment in 30 years. He built that place from nothing, and he never asked anyone for help. never took shortcuts, and here I am, 3 years after he died, about to lose it all because I couldn't keep it together.
Ethan, Vivian's voice was firm. Your father didn't have to raise a child alone. He didn't lose his wife and his business partner in the same few years. He didn't have to navigate an economy that's been systematically destroying small businesses. You're not failing, you're surviving. There's a difference. It doesn't feel like it.
I know, but it's true. She came up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist, pressing her forehead against his back. Let me help you, please. Not because you're weak or because you failed, but because you deserve help. Because everyone deserves help sometimes. Ethan turned in her arms and held her tight, burying his face in her hair. She smelled like expensive perfume and coffee and something uniquely her, and for the first time since he'd gotten that phone call, he let himself breathe. Okay, he whispered. Okay. Okay? I'll take the contract. I'll take the help. I'll try to believe I deserve it. Vivian pulled back to look at him, her eyes bright. That's all I'm asking. They stood there by the windows as the sun set over the city, holding each other like they were the only solid things in a world that kept shifting beneath their feet. And Ethan thought maybe, just maybe, he was allowed to lean on someone else for once. Maybe that didn't make him weak. Maybe it just made him human. When he finally left the office an hour later, Vivian walked him down to the parking garage and kissed him goodbye against his truck like they were teenagers and not two adults with more baggage than either of them knew what to do with. I'll see you next weekend, she said. You, me, and Lily. It's a date. A very unconventional one. The best kind. He drove home with the windows down, letting the cool night air clear his head. When he got there, Lily was in the garage with Jessica, both of them covered in grease and arguing good-naturedly about the proper way to gap spark plugs. Dad, Lily looked up, beaming. We fixed the Mustang's timing. Well, Jessica mostly fixed it, but I helped. Did you now? She's a natural, Jessica said, wiping her hands on a rag. Better than you were at her age. That's not saying much. Lily ran over and hugged him, smearing grease all over his clean shirt. He didn't care. He held her tight and thought about Vivian's words. You deserve help. You deserve good things. Maybe it was time to start believing that. Hey, Lil, he said. Yeah? How would you feel about meeting someone next weekend? Someone important to me. Lily pulled back, her eyes wide. The girlfriend. Maybe girlfriend. We're still figuring it out. Does she like cars? Not really, but she's willing to learn. Lily considered this seriously. Okay, I'll meet her, but she has to pass my test first. What test? I haven't decided yet. I'll let you know. Ethan laughed and ruffled her hair. Fair enough. That night, after Lily was asleep, he sat at the kitchen table with the contract spread out in front of him. He read through it twice, making sure he understood every word. It was exactly what Vivian had promised. Fair, professional, more generous than he probably deserved, but not so generous that it felt like charity. He signed it. Then he texted Vivian. Contract signed. Thank you for believing in me when I wasn't sure I believed in myself. Her response came almost immediately. Thank you for letting me in. Now get some sleep. You've got a business to save. Ethan set the phone down and looked around his kitchen. The chipped counters, the old appliances, Lily's drawings taped to the fridge. It wasn't much, but it was his. And for the first time in months, he believed he might actually get to keep it. The contract arrived Tuesday morning in a black leather portfolio delivered by a courier who looked like he'd stepped out of a legal thriller. Ethan signed for it at the garage door, still wearing yesterday's work clothes, grease under his fingernails and oil smeared across his forearm. Inside were documents printed on heavy paper that felt expensive just to touch. Employment agreement, service terms, payment schedules, everything laid out in precise legal language that made his head hurt, but his chest feel lighter with every page he turned. He sat in his office, really just a converted storage closet with a metal desk and a filing cabinet that didn't close right, and read through it twice. $25,000 retainer, paid upon signing. Monthly payments of $6,000 for ongoing maintenance work, renewable annually if both parties agreed. It was more money than he'd seen in one place since his father died. He signed every page, initialing where the small yellow tabs indicated, and couriered it back before he could second-guess himself. By Wednesday afternoon, the retainer had hit his business account. Ethan stared at the balance on his phone screen like it might disappear if he blinked. Then he called First National Bank and wired $18,000 with 20 minutes to spare before their foreclosure deadline. Margaret Chen from the bank called him back within the hour, her voice notably warmer than during their previous conversations. Mr. Cole, I just wanted to confirm we received your payment. Your account is current now. Thank you. And Mr. Cole, I know the last few months have been difficult, but you're back on solid ground now. Just please stay on top of the payments going forward. I will, I promise. When he hung up, Ethan sat in the silence of his office with his head in his hands. The garage was safe. The lights would stay on. Lily wouldn't have to watch her father lose the last thing his grandfather had left them. For the first time in 18 months, he could breathe without feeling like his chest was caving in. Jessica found him there 30 minutes later, still sitting in the dark. You good? She asked from the doorway. Yeah, just processing. She came in and leaned against the desk. Payment went through? This morning. And you're sitting here in the dark because I feel like I should be happier about this. And instead, I just feel... He stopped, searching for the word. Guilty. For accepting help? For needing it in the first place. Jessica made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sigh. Ethan, your dad would have taken this deal in a heartbeat. You know that, right?
My dad never needed help. He built this place from nothing and never missed a payment. Your dad also didn't raise a kid alone while trying to keep a business afloat in an economy designed to crush small shops. He had your mom. He had stability. He had advantages you don't have. She squeezed his shoulder. Stop comparing yourself to a version of him that never had to face what you're facing. That's what Vivian said. Then Vivian's smart. Listen to her. Ethan looked up. Don't know how to do this. Do what? Be with someone who fixes things, who makes problems disappear with a phone call and a checkbook. You're not with someone who fixes things. You're with someone who saw you struggling and offered you a partnership that benefits both of you. That's different. Is it? Yes. Jessica's voice was firm. And if you can't see that, you're going to ruin something good because you're too proud to admit you deserve good things. She left him with that, and Ethan sat alone for a while longer before finally standing up and getting back to work. The first batch of Mercer Industries vehicles arrived Friday morning, 3 black sedans that looked like they'd been detailed yesterday, but still needed their routine service. Ethan walked around each one, making notes, checking tire pressure and fluid levels, and all the small things that separated adequate maintenance from the kind of work his father would have been proud of. He dove in with a focus he hadn't felt in months. Oil changes, brake inspections, fluid flushes. He rotated tires, checked alignments, replaced cabin air filters that should have been changed 2,000 miles ago. By Saturday afternoon, all 3 cars were finished and looked better than they had rolling off the lot. When the company driver came to pick them up, he did a walk-around and let out a low whistle. These look brand new. That's the idea. Miss Mercer's going to be happy. Last shop we used, half the time they'd forget to actually do the work and just charge us anyway. That won't happen here. Good. Because between you and me, she's been looking for someone she could trust with this for over a year. After the driver left, Ethan stood in the empty bay and let himself feel something close to pride. This was real work. Honest work. The kind of steady income that could actually build something instead of just keeping the lights on for another month. His phone buzzed. Vivian. How'd the first service go? He typed back. Good. Driver seemed impressed. That's because you're good at what you do. You haven't seen the work yet. Don't need to. I trust you. Ethan stared at those 3 words for longer than he should have. He saved the message and went back to work. Net. Saturday arrived with Lily waking him up at 7 by jumping on his bed like it was a trampoline. Today's the day, she shouted. Today's what day? He mumbled into his pillow. Vivian's bringing her car, the Jaguar. You said I could help change the oil. Right. He'd forgotten he'd agreed to that. What time is it? 7:03. She's coming at 10. That means we have 2 hours and 57 minutes to get ready. Lily, we don't need 3 hours to get ready. I do. I made a list of questions. Of course she did. By 9:30, Lily had changed clothes 4 times and was currently wearing jeans, sneakers, and her favorite t-shirt that said fossil fuels with a cartoon dinosaur. She'd also prepared a stack of index cards with questions written in her careful 7-year-old handwriting. Ethan picked one up. What's the displacement of a 1967 Jaguar E-Type inline-6 engine? 4.2 liters, obviously. Obviously. Do you think she'll know? Lily, it's her car. She probably knows. Yeah, but rich people sometimes don't actually know things about their stuff. They just pay other people to know. Where did you learn that? TV, Ethan sighed. Just be nice, okay? She's nervous about meeting you. Lily looked up, genuinely surprised. Why? Because you're important to me, and she wants you to like her. Well, I'll like her if she's cool, and if she knows about her car. That's fair.
At exactly 10 o'clock, they heard the deep rumble of the Jaguar's engine coming up the street. Lily's head snapped toward the window like a dog hearing a treat bag open. She's here! They went outside just as Vivian pulled into the driveway. The Jaguar was even more beautiful in daylight. British racing green paint gleaming, chrome details catching the sun. Vivian shut off the engine and climbed out, wearing jeans and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up. She looked nervous. "Hi," she said. Lily didn't waste time on pleasantries. She walked straight to the Jaguar and crouched down to examine the front grille, her face serious. 1967 E-Type Series 1.5, she announced. 4.2-liter inline-six, triple SU carburetors, approximately 265 horsepower. Original or restored? Vivian blinked, clearly not expecting an interrogation. Mostly original. The engine was rebuilt about 8 years ago, but they kept it period correct. Good. Restomods are cheating. Lily stood and stuck out her hand. I'm Lily. You can call me Lily. It's nice to meet you. Vivian shook her hand solemnly. Vivian, you can call me Vivian. Your dad's told me a lot about you. Like what? Like you're smarter than most adults he knows and you want to be a mechanic when you grow up. That's true. Did he tell you I already know how to gap spark plugs and bleed brake lines? He didn't mention that. Well, I do. Dad taught me. Lily walked around the car, running her hand along the fender. Can we change the oil now? Ethan stepped in. Lily, maybe let Vivian get settled first. It's okay. Vivian smiled. I promised her she could help. Let's do it. They pulled the Jaguar into the garage bay and Lily immediately started gathering tools like a tiny pit crew. Ethan walked Vivian through what they'd be doing while Lily set up the oil drain pan and located the filter wrench. You sure you want to get your hands dirty? Ethan asked Vivian. Absolutely. I've owned this car for 6 years and I've never actually seen what's under it. That's about to change. They worked together, Ethan explaining each step while Lily handed him tools, and Vivian watched with the focused attention of someone trying to memorize everything. When Ethan loosened the drain plug and hot oil started pouring out, Lily launched into an explanation of viscosity ratings that was more detailed than most ASE certification courses. Vivian listened without interrupting, asking questions that Lily answered with the authority of someone 3 times her age. You really know your stuff, Vivian said. Dad says if you're going to do something, do it right. Half doing stuff is worse than not doing it at all. Your dad's smart. I know. They finished the oil change in 45 minutes. Lily insisted on checking the dipstick herself to make sure the level was correct, then gave Vivian a thumbs up. You're good to go for another 3,000 miles, but check it every week because British cars like to leak. I'll remember that. Ethan cleaned up while Lily showed Vivian around the garage, pointing out the Mustang project and explaining in excessive detail why the previous owner had been an idiot for using the wrong weight oil. When Lily ran inside to wash her hands, Vivian turned to Ethan. She's incredible. Yeah, she is. And terrifying, in the best way. That's pretty accurate. Vivian stepped closer, her voice dropping. Thank you for this, for letting me be part of it. Thank you for wanting to be. She kissed him, quick and soft, and when they broke apart, Lily was standing in the doorway with a look of theatrical disgust on her face. Gross. You're going to have to get used to that, Ethan told her. I know, doesn't mean I have to like it. She turned to Vivian. Do you want to stay for lunch? Dad's making grilled cheese. It's the only thing he's actually good at cooking. Vivian looked at Ethan, eyebrows raised. She's not wrong, he admitted. Then I'd love to. Basis, bots. Lunch was chaotic in the best way. Lily asked approximately 4,000 questions about everything from Vivian's favorite color to whether she thought dolphins were overrated compared to octopuses. Vivian handled it all with the same calm focus she probably used in board meetings. And by the time they finished eating, Lily had declared her pretty cool for a grown-up. After lunch, Vivian's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her expression shifted. I need to take this, excuse me. She stepped outside and through the window Ethan could see her pacing, her free hand gesturing as she talked. When she came back in 10 minutes later, she looked tired. Everything okay? He asked. Work thing. Richard Ashford's apparently been making calls, spreading rumors that Mercer Industries is overextended and struggling financially. Is that true?
No, but it doesn't matter. The rumor's out there now, and I'm going to spend the next week putting out fires and reassuring investors. I'm sorry. Not your fault. She sat down at the table. This is just what he does. He can't beat me legitimately, so he tries to undermine me through gossip and innuendo. Lily looked up from her coloring book. What's innuendo? It's when someone implies something bad without actually saying it directly, Vivian explained. That's stupid. Very stupid, but effective. Can't you just tell everyone he's lying? It's more complicated than that. In business, sometimes the truth matters less than what people believe. Lily frowned, processing this. That doesn't seem fair. It's not. Ethan reached across and squeezed Vivian's hand. What do you need? Honestly, just this. Being here, not thinking about work for a few hours. We can do that.
They spent the rest of the afternoon in the garage. Lily insisted on showing Vivian how to properly torque lug nuts, and Vivian listened with the same serious attention she'd probably give to a board presentation. When Lily's friends called asking her to come play, she actually hesitated before saying yes. You sure? She asked Vivian. Because I can stay if you want. Go play. I'll be here next weekend. Promise? Promise. After Lily left, the garage fell quiet. Ethan and Vivian sat on the hood of the Mustang, shoulders touching, not talking. She really likes you, Ethan said finally. I really like her too. I was worried. I know, but you don't need to be. Vivian leaned her head on his shoulder. She's amazing, Ethan. Smart and confident and completely herself. You're doing something right. Most days I feel like I'm barely keeping it together. That's called parenting. You're supposed to feel that way. You sound pretty confident for someone without kids. I have 8 executives who act like children. Does that count? Ethan laughed. Maybe. Vivian's phone buzzed again. She ignored it. You can get that, Ethan said. I don't want to. Vivian, I spend every waking hour being available to everyone who needs something from me. Just let me have this. Let me be here with you and not thinking about Richard Ashford or quarterly earnings or whatever crisis is exploding in my inbox. So they sat there in the quiet garage, surrounded by the smell of motor oil and old concrete, and for a little while, the rest of the world stayed outside where it belonged. Shit. That night, after Vivian left and Lily was asleep, Ethan sat at the kitchen table with his laptop, scrolling through news articles about Mercer Industries. Most were straightforward business reporting, but a few, all published in the last week, hinted at financial instability, leadership questions, potential vulnerabilities in overseas investments. He recognized the pattern. Someone was planting stories. His phone rang. Vivian. Hey, he answered. You okay? Not really. I just got off a 2-hour call with our CFO and our head of PR. The rumors Ashford's spreading are starting to get traction. We're going to have to release a statement Monday morning. What kind of statement? The kind that says everything's fine and we're on solid financial ground and investors have nothing to worry about. Standard corporate damage control. Will it work? Maybe. Probably. But it's exhausting having to constantly defend myself against manufactured crises. Ethan heard the weariness in her voice, the kind that went deeper than just being tired. What can I do? You're already doing it. Being there. Being normal. Being someone who doesn't want anything from me, except just me. That's not hard. It is for most people. They talked for another hour about nothing important. Lily's latest obsession with marine biology. The Mustang's ongoing saga. Whether grilled cheese counted as a legitimate dinner option or if Ethan needed to expand his culinary repertoire. When they finally said goodnight, Ethan felt that same settling in his chest he'd been feeling more and more lately. Like things were falling into place, like maybe the universe was finally cutting him a break. He should have known better. Tuesday morning, Jessica showed up at the garage with coffee and a newspaper, which should have been his first warning because nobody read physical newspapers anymore. You need to see this, she said, dropping the business section on his desk. The headline made his stomach drop. Mercer Industries CEO's unconventional new romance raises questions. The article was short but brutal. It described him as a struggling mechanic who'd recently secured a lucrative contract with Mercer Industries, shortly after beginning a romantic relationship with Vivian. It stopped just short of saying he was using her, but the implication was clear enough. There was a photo of them leaving the charity gala together, Vivian in her green dress and Ethan in the borrowed tuxedo, looking exactly like what the article suggested. A mismatch. "This is Ashford," Ethan said. "Obviously." Jessica sat down. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Call Vivian, I guess." But before he could, his phone rang. Vivian. "Did you see it?" she asked without preamble. "Just now. Jessica brought it." "It's bullshit. Complete fabricated bullshit designed to make both of us look bad." "Vivian, maybe we should—" "Don't. Don't you dare say we should stop seeing each other because of this." "I wasn't going to say that."
You were thinking it. He had been. This makes you look bad, like you're mixing business with your personal life in ways that benefit me unfairly. I don't care what it looks like. The contract is legitimate, the work is real, and what we have is nobody's business but ours. But if it's hurting your company,
"Then I'll deal with it. I've dealt with worse." Her voice softened. "Ethan, I need you to trust me on this. Don't pull away because some vindictive asshole planted a story in a newspaper that half the city's population doesn't even read anymore. What if more people start asking questions? Then I'll answer them, honestly, because the truth is on our side." Ethan wanted to believe that, but he'd learned the hard way that truth didn't always matter as much as it should. "Okay," he said. "What do you need from me?" "Just keep being you. Don't let this change anything." "I'll try." "Good. I have to go. Crisis management meeting in 10 minutes. But Ethan?" "Yeah?" "We're going to be fine. I promise." She hung up, and Ethan sat there staring at the newspaper article, trying to convince himself she was right. By Friday, 3 more articles had appeared in various business publications, all asking variations of the same question. Was Vivian Mercer's judgment compromised by her personal life? Was the Mercer Industries contract with Kohl's Auto legitimate or preferential treatment? Were investors right to be concerned? Ethan watched the pile of questions grow and felt increasingly like he was drowning. Every time his phone rang with a number he didn't recognize, he assumed it was a reporter. He stopped checking social media because the comments sections were toxic. Jessica kept the coffee coming and told him to ignore it. Lily asked why people were being mean about Vivian and didn't understand his explanation that sometimes adults were just cruel for no good reason. And Vivian was a fortress. She released statements. She took calls from investors. She gave an interview to a financial news network where she calmly dismantled every insinuation with facts and documentation. But Ethan could hear the strain in her voice when they talked at night, could feel the weight of it even through the phone. Saturday morning, she showed up at the garage unannounced, driving the Jaguar, wearing jeans and looking exhausted. "Hi," she said. "Hi." He set down the wrench he'd been holding. "You okay?" "No, but I needed to see you." He pulled her into a hug, holding her tight while she pressed her face against his shoulder. "This is all my fault," she said, muffled against his shirt. "No, it's not. If I hadn't pushed for the contract, if I'd just left things alone, then I'd have lost the garage and we'd both be miserable. Vivian, you didn't do anything wrong. I pulled you into my world, into this mess. I walked into it willingly, eyes open." He pulled back to look at her. "And I'd do it again. Even knowing what you know now? Especially knowing what I know now." She kissed him, desperate and certain, and he kissed her back like he could somehow absorb all the pressure she was carrying. When they broke apart, she was crying. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "I know. I've been fighting my whole life, fighting to be taken seriously, fighting to keep what's mine, fighting men like Richard who think they can destroy me because I won't play by their rules, and I'm so tired of it." Ethan led her to his office and sat her down on the ancient couch against the wall. He made coffee in the tiny machine that sputtered and hissed, and they sat together in the quiet while the garage hummed with weekend activity outside. "What do you need?" he asked. "I don't know. For this to be over, for people to just leave us alone." "What if they don't?" "Then I keep fighting, because that's what I do." She looked at him, her eyes red. "But I need to know you're still in this, that you're not going to wake up one day and decide it's too much. I'm in this, Vivian, all the way. Even if it gets worse before it gets better? Even then." She leaned her head on his shoulder and they sat like that for a long time, not talking, just being present with each other while the world tried to tear them apart from the outside. Eventually, Lily appeared in the doorway, took one look at them, and disappeared. She came back 5 minutes later with her favorite stuffed elephant. "Here,"
she said, handing it to Vivian. His name is Diesel. He helps when things are hard. Vivian took the elephant, her expression crumbling. Thank you, Lily.
You're welcome. Also, do you want grilled cheese? Dad's making lunch.
I'd love that. They ate together. The three of them squeezed around Ethan's desk, and slowly, Vivian's shoulders started to relax. The tension in her jaw eased. She smiled at Lily's terrible jokes and asked questions about school, and listened to a 15-minute explanation of why orcas were technically dolphins. By the time she left that afternoon, she looked less like she was carrying the weight of the world.
Thank you, she said at the door. For this. For not running.
I told you, I'm not going anywhere.
I know, but it still means everything that you mean it.
She drove away in the Jaguar, and Ethan stood in the driveway watching until she disappeared around the corner. Behind him, Lily said quietly, She's really sad.
Yeah, she is.
Is it because of the newspaper stuff?
Partly.
That's stupid. People are stupid.
Sometimes, yeah.
Lily slipped her hand into his. Are you going to fix it? I don't know if I can, kiddo. You're good at fixing things. Not things like this. Then what are you going to do? Ethan looked down at his daughter, this fierce little person who believed he could solve any problem if he just tried hard enough. I'm going to be there, he said. However she needs me. That's all I can do. Lily nodded seriously. That's probably enough. Ethan hoped she was right.
The attacks escalated over the next 2 weeks. More articles appeared, each one more pointed than the last, questioning Vivian's judgment, her business practices, her motivations. Someone leaked details about the contract, redacted, but enough to make it look suspicious. Social media picked it up, and suddenly everyone had an opinion about whether a CEO should be dating her mechanic. Ethan stopped reading the comments after the first 100. They ranged from merely condescending to outright vicious, and none of them knew anything about who he was or what he and Vivian actually had. The garage stayed busy, which helped. More Mercer Industries vehicles came in for service, and Ethan threw himself into the work with single-minded focus. Oil changes, brake jobs, transmission flushes. He documented everything meticulously, took photos, kept detailed records. If anyone ever questioned whether he was earning that contract, he'd have proof. But the pressure was getting to Vivian. He could hear it in her voice during their nightly calls, see it in her face when she came by the garage on weekends. She smiled less, slept less. The dark circles under her eyes got deeper no matter how much concealer she used. You need to rest, he told her one Sunday afternoon while they sat in his office, her head on his shoulder. I can't. If I slow down even for a second, Ashford will use it as evidence that I'm distracted, compromised. You're human. You're allowed to be tired. Not when there's blood in the water. That's when they circle. Ethan hated that she was right, hated that the world she lived in was so brutal that exhaustion was seen as weakness instead of just the natural consequence of fighting nonstop. What if you took a few days off, he suggested. Just unplugged, let your team handle things. Vivian laughed, bitter and sharp. My CFO would have a heart attack. My board would call an emergency meeting, and Ashford would probably take out a full-page ad celebrating my breakdown. That's not taking time off. That's strategic absence. There's no such thing in my world. You're either present and in control, or you're weak and vulnerable. There's no middle ground. That's insane. That's business. Lily appeared in the doorway, holding a plate of cookies that Jessica had apparently sent over. She took one look at Vivian and frowned. You look really tired, she said bluntly. I am really tired. When's the last time you slept? Thursday, I think. Maybe Wednesday. That's not good. Humans need 8 hours of sleep. I learned that in school. I'll try to remember that. Lily set down the cookies and climbed onto the couch next to Vivian. Do you want to watch a movie? Dad says movies help when your brain won't shut up. Vivian glanced at Ethan, something uncertain in her expression. I don't want to impose. You're not imposing, Ethan said. Stay. Watch a movie with us. The world won't end if you take 2 hours off. So they did. They squeezed onto the couch in Ethan's living room, him, Vivian, and Lily, and watched some animated thing about talking fish that Lily had seen a dozen times but still laughed at every joke. Vivian fell asleep halfway through, her head on Ethan's shoulder, breathing deep and even for the first time in weeks. When the movie ended, Lily looked up at her dad and whispered, Should we wake her up? No, let her sleep. Is she going to be okay? I hope so, kiddo. The people being mean to her, they don't even know her. They don't know she helped you save the garage. They don't know she's teaching me about octopuses. They just see rich lady dating working guy and think it's weird. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really dumb. It is. Lily was quiet for a moment, thinking.
Dad? Yeah? Are you going to marry her? Ethan choked on air. What? Are you going to marry her? Because if you are, I think that's cool. But if you're not, that's cool too. I just want to know. Lily, we've only been dating for a few weeks. So? You look at her like Grandpa used to look at Grandma in the old photos, like she's the best thing you ever saw. He stopped, completely derailed. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I care about her a lot. And I know she makes me happy in ways I didn't think I could be happy anymore.
Then that's good enough. Lily snuggled against his other side. Just don't mess it up. I'll try not to. Vivian slept for 3 hours, curled up on the couch while Ethan and Lily moved around the house quietly, making dinner and doing homework and pretending everything was normal. When she finally woke up, blinking groggily in the early evening light, she looked almost embarrassed. I fell asleep. You needed it, Ethan said. I'm sorry. Don't be. You're staying for dinner. Ethan, I should probably... You're staying for dinner, he repeated, firmer this time. Jessica's bringing over lasagna. Lily made garlic bread that's only slightly burnt, and you're going to sit at our table and eat like a normal person instead of going home to an empty apartment and answering emails until midnight. Vivian stared at him, something breaking in her expression. Okay. Dinner was loud and chaotic in the best way. Jessica showed up with lasagna and opinions about everything. Lily delivered a 15-minute lecture about why sharks got an unfair reputation, and Vivian laughed more than Ethan had seen her laugh in weeks. After they ate, Jessica pulled him aside in the kitchen while Vivian helped Lily with her math homework at the dining table. She looks like hell, Jessica said quietly. I know. How much longer can she keep this up? I don't know. She won't admit she's struggling. She just keeps pushing forward like if she stops moving, she'll fall apart. That's not sustainable. I know that too, but I can't make her rest. I can't make her stop fighting. All I can do is be here when she needs me. Jessica squeezed his arm. You're good for her. You know that, right? She needs someone who sees her as a person instead of a business asset. I just wish I could do more. You're doing enough. Trust me. When Jessica left and Lily went upstairs to take a bath, Ethan and Vivian stood in the kitchen doing dishes together. It was domestic and ordinary, and Ethan realized he wanted 1,000 more nights exactly like this one. Thank you, Vivian said, handing him a plate to dry. For what? For making me stay. For not letting me go home and spiral alone. She paused. For everything, really. You don't have to thank me for caring about you. I know, but I want to anyway. They finished the dishes in comfortable silence, and when Vivian finally left around 9, she kissed him at the door like she was trying to memorize the feeling. I'll call you tomorrow, she said. I'll be waiting. Ethan? Yeah? I love you. The words hung in the air between them, simple and devastating. She'd said it so naturally, like it was just a fact she was stating, like it had been true for a while and she was only now getting around to mentioning it. You love me? He said, stupidly. Yeah, I do. I've been trying to figure out when to say it, but there's never a perfect moment, so... She shrugged. I'm saying it now. I love you. Ethan pulled her close and kissed her hard enough that she made a small sound of surprise. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. I love you too, in case that wasn't completely obvious. It was a little obvious, but I'm glad you said it. She left smiling, and Ethan stood in the doorway watching her drive away until the Jaguar's taillights disappeared around the corner. When he went back inside, Lily was sitting on the stairs in her pajamas, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. You heard that, he said. The whole neighborhood probably heard that. You're not exactly quiet. Go to bed. You love her. Yeah, I do. Good. She loves you too. Lily stood and started up the stairs, then paused. Just so you know, when you guys get married, I want to be part of the wedding, not like a flower girl or whatever, something cooler. We're not getting married. Not yet, but you will. I can tell. She disappeared upstairs before he could argue, leaving Ethan standing alone in the hallway, wondering when his 7-year-old had become the wisest person he knew. Look, the breaking point came on a Tuesday. Ethan was under a Honda Accord, replacing a timing belt, when his phone started ringing. He ignored it. It rang again, and again. By the 5th call in 2 minutes, he rolled out from under the car, wiping grease from his hands. 5 missed calls from Vivian's assistant, 3 from a number he didn't recognize, 2 from Jessica. One from a reporter whose name he vaguely recognized from the business section. His stomach dropped. He called Jessica first. "What's wrong?" "Turn on the news. Business channel. Now." Ethan walked to his office and pulled up the news on his laptop. The headline made his chest tighten like someone had wrapped a belt around his ribs and yanked. Mercer Industries faces federal investigation into alleged contracting improprieties. He read the article 3 times, each pass making it worse. Anonymous sources. Allegations of preferential treatment. Questions about conflicts of interest. Implications that Vivian had used company funds to benefit someone she was personally involved with. It was all lies wrapped in just enough truth to sound plausible. His phone rang again. "Vivian, did you see it?" Her voice was tight, controlled, but he could hear the panic underneath like water rising behind a dam. "Just now. It's Ashford. It has to be. He must have someone inside my company feeding him information, twisting it, making everything look improper when it's all completely legitimate." "What do you need?" "I don't know. My lawyers are already on it. But Ethan, this is bad. Federal investigations don't just disappear. Even if we're cleared completely, the damage is done. Investors are going to panic. The board's going to question my leadership. This could destroy everything I've built. Then we fight it. We show them the contract is legitimate, that everything was above board, that we followed every regulation. It won't matter." Her voice cracked. "Don't you understand? In my world, the appearance of impropriety is just as damaging as actual impropriety. It doesn't matter that we did nothing wrong. It matters that it looks questionable." Ethan sat down hard in his desk chair, the reality of what she was saying settling over him like concrete. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying—" She stopped. He heard her breathing, trying to steady herself. "I'm saying maybe we need to put some distance between us, publicly. Just until this blows over." The words hit like a physical blow. "You want to break up." No, I don't want that at all. But I need to protect the company. I need to protect the 1,500 people who work for me and depend on me to keep things stable. And right now, our relationship is being weaponized against all of them. So I'm the problem." "You're not the problem. Ashford is the problem. The system is the problem. But you're the vulnerability he's exploiting, and I—" Her voice broke completely. "I don't know what else to do." Ethan closed his eyes. Every instinct screamed at him to fight this, to tell her they could weather it together, that giving in to Ashford's tactics was exactly what he wanted. But he also knew what it was like to be responsible for other people, to have their livelihoods dependent on your decisions, to carry that weight every single day and know that one wrong move could destroy lives. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay, what?" "Okay, we put some distance, publicly. We stop being seen together. I stop coming to your office. You stop coming to the garage as much. We give them nothing to talk about. Ethan, but we don't actually end this. We go quiet for a while. Let the investigation happen. Let your lawyers do their work. And when it's over and you're cleared, we go back to normal." Vivian was crying now. He could hear it in her breathing. "I hate this. I hate that he's winning." "He's not winning. He's just making us adjust our strategy. That's all this is. A tactical retreat." "You sound like me." "I learned from the best." They talked for another hour, working out the logistics. They'd communicate by phone only, late at night when no one was watching. No public appearances together, no social media, no photographs. Nothing that could be twisted or weaponized or used to suggest impropriety. When they finally hung up, Ethan sat alone in his office and stared at the wall, feeling like someone had reached into his chest and rearranged everything. Jessica found him there 20 minutes later. "You okay?" "No." She sat down across from him without asking permission. "What happened?" He told her everything. The investigation, the allegations, the decision to create public distance, the fear in Vivian's voice when she'd suggested it. "That manipulative bastard," Jessica said. "Ashford's going to burn for this." "Maybe, but not today." "So what are you going to do?" "What can I do?" "I'm a mechanic, Jess. I can't fight federal investigations or billionaire rivals or corporate espionage. I can barely keep my own business running." "You can be there for her, even if it has to be quietly." "That's what I told her I'd do." "Then do it. And stop feeling sorry for yourself. Vivian needs you to be strong right now, not falling apart because some rich asshole decided to make your life difficult." She was right. Ethan knew she was right. But that didn't make it any easier to sit in his garage and pretend everything was fine while Vivian faced down an investigation that could end her career. The next 4 weeks were the longest of Ethan's life. He and Vivian talked every night, usually after Lily was asleep, their conversations a fragile lifeline in the chaos. She told him about the investigation, the endless interviews with federal agents who looked at her like she was already guilty, the audits of company records going back 5 years, the depositions from employees who were terrified they'd somehow be implicated in something they didn't understand. The media coverage was relentless. Every day brought new speculation, new anonymous sources, new questions about Vivian's judgment and integrity. Ethan watched her company's stock price drop 3%, then 5%, then 8%, each percentage point representing millions of dollars and the trust of investors who'd believed in her. "How are you holding up?" he asked one night, 2 weeks into the investigation.
"I'm not sleeping. I'm barely eating. I snapped at my assistant yesterday for something that wasn't her fault, and then cried in my office for 20 minutes. She laughed, but it sounded broken. "So I'd say I'm doing fantastic." "Vivian, I know what you're going to say, that I need to take care of myself, that I can't pour from an empty cup, that I'm no good to anyone if I collapse. And you're right, but knowing that and actually doing it are two different things. What can I do? You're already doing it, talking to me, reminding me that there's something outside this nightmare worth fighting for." "There's a lot worth fighting for." "I hope the investigators agree with you." Ethan told her about the garage, about Lily's latest questions, about the mundane details of life that seemed absurdly normal compared to what she was dealing with. He told her about finishing the Mustang restoration and how the owner had finally resurfaced and actually paid the balance he owed. He told her about Lily's science fair project on ocean acidification and how she'd somehow turned it into a critique of corporate environmental practices. "She's going to be trouble when she grows up," Vivian said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "She already is trouble." "Good. The world needs more troublemakers." "How's the board handling everything?" The smile disappeared from her voice. "About how you'd expect. Half of them are supportive. The other half are quietly looking for ways to protect themselves if this goes sideways. There's been talk of bringing in an interim CEO while the investigation continues." "Can they do that?" "They can do whatever they want if they have enough votes. I still have support from the majority, but it's eroding. Every day this drags on, I lose a little more ground." "I'm sorry. Not your fault?" "Feels like it is." "Well, it's not. This is Ashford. This is a system designed to punish women who don't play by the rules. This is 1,000 things, but it's not you." They fell into silence, comfortable despite everything. And Ethan wished more than anything that he could reach through the phone and pull her close, let her collapse against him for a few hours and just breathe. "Ethan?" "Yeah?" "When this is over, and it will be over eventually, I want to take you and Lily somewhere. Somewhere far away from Seattle and investigations and people who think they know our business." "Where?" "I don't know. Somewhere with beaches, maybe, or mountains. Somewhere Lily can ask 1,000 questions about local ecology and you can work on things that aren't cars for once." "That sounds perfect." "Good. Because I'm going to need something to look forward to if I'm going to survive the next few weeks." "You're going to survive it. You're the strongest person I know." "I don't feel strong." "You don't have to feel it. You just have to keep going, one day at a time, one interview at a time, one angry board member at a time." "You make it sound so simple." "It's not simple, but it's possible. And you're not doing it alone." Gochankis. The investigation wrapped up on a Thursday afternoon, 6 weeks after it started. Vivian called Ethan from her office, and for the first time in over a month, he heard something other than exhaustion in her voice. "We're clear." "What?" "The federal investigation. They're closing it. No charges, no violations, nothing. The contract with your garage was completely legitimate and properly documented. There's no evidence of impropriety or misuse of company funds." She laughed, and it sounded almost hysterical. "We're clear, Ethan. We actually made it through." "That's incredible." The agents said Ashford's anonymous tips were deliberately misleading. They're actually considering whether to investigate him for filing false reports, though I'm not holding my breath on that. "How's the board taking it?" "Emergency meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, but my lawyers say it's just formality. The investigation cleared us. The stock price is already recovering. I think we're actually going to be okay." Ethan sat down on a stack of tires in the garage bay, relief flooding through him so completely he felt lightheaded. "So what happens now?" "Now I spend the next week doing damage control with investors and the press. Now I make sure everyone knows we were cleared completely and vindictively.
Now I find whoever inside my company was feeding Ashford information, and I fire them so hard they'll feel it for the rest of their career. That's my girl. And then, her voice softened. Then I'm coming to see you. No more hiding. No more distance. No more pretending we're not exactly what we are. Which is what? In love. Completely, stupidly, inconveniently in love. I can live with that. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. Not after everything we just went through. They talked for another hour, making plans, processing the relief, letting themselves finally believe that maybe the worst was actually over. When they hung up, Ethan sat in the garage alone, staring at his phone, feeling like he'd just survived something that should have broken them, but somehow hadn't. Jessica appeared in the doorway, took one look at his face, and smiled. She's cleared? Completely. Thank God. You've been moping around here like someone kicked your dog. I don't have a dog. You know what I mean. She sat down next to him. So when's she coming over? Saturday. She wants to take me and Lily to dinner, somewhere nice, said she's done hiding. Good. You two have been miserable apart. It was only 6 weeks. It was the longest 6 weeks I've ever watched someone endure. You looked like a ghost. That bad? Worse. Lily noticed too. She asked me yesterday if you and Vivian broke up for real, or if this was just temporary. What did you tell her? I told her that sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices to protect people they love, but that doesn't mean they stop loving each other. That's pretty wise. I have my moments. Jessica stood. Now stop sitting in here feeling sorry for yourself and go tell your daughter the good news. She's been worried about you. Saturday came bright and clear, the kind of Seattle autumn day that felt like a gift. Vivian arrived at 6, driving the Jaguar, wearing a simple blue dress that made Ethan forget how to form coherent sentences. Hi, she said. Hi. She kissed him right there in the driveway, not caring who saw, and Ethan kissed her back like he was trying to make up for 6 weeks of phone calls and distance and pretending they were anything less than completely in love. When they broke apart, Lily was standing in the doorway, grinning. Finally, I thought you guys were going to be weird forever. We were never weird, Vivian said. You were extremely weird, but it's okay. You're not weird anymore. They went to a restaurant downtown, the kind of place with white tablecloths and a wine list thicker than most novels. Lily ordered the most expensive thing on the menu without blinking, lobster, and proceeded to interrogate the waiter about sustainable fishing practices. She's your daughter, Vivian said to Ethan. She's absolutely my daughter. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, Lily running ahead to look at the boats while Ethan and Vivian followed hand in hand. The city lights reflected off the water, turning everything golden, and for the first time in months, Ethan felt like he could breathe without waiting for the next crisis. I talked to Ashford yesterday, Vivian said quietly. Ethan stopped walking. What? He called to congratulate me on being cleared. Said he hoped there were no hard feelings about the investigation. That manipulative, I know. I told him in very professional language that he could take his congratulations and shove them somewhere anatomically improbable. Then I hung up on him. Good. He's not going to stop, you know. This was just one round. He'll find some new angle, some new way to come at me. Then we'll deal with it when it happens. Together. Together, she repeated, like she was testing how the word felt. I like the sound of that. Me too. They caught up to Lily, who'd found a street musician playing guitar and was watching with the intense focus she usually reserved for mechanical diagrams. Can I give him money? She asked. Ethan pulled out his wallet and handed her a $5. She dropped it in the guitar case and stood there listening for another 3 songs before they could convince her to leave. On the drive home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the day. Vivian reached over and took Ethan's hand. Thank you, she said. For what? For not running when things got hard. For being exactly who you are even when the world was trying to make you into something smaller. For loving me even when loving me meant dealing with federal investigations and corporate warfare. You say that like it was a choice, like I could have just decided to stop. Couldn't you? No, not even a little bit. She smiled, small and private. Good. Because I'm not planning on making things easy. I wouldn't want you to. When they got back to Ethan's house, Vivian carried a sleeping Lily inside while Ethan followed with her shoes and the leftovers from dinner. They got Lily into bed without waking her, and then stood in the hallway, neither quite ready to say goodnight. Stay, Ethan said. I can't.
I have an 8 a.m. meeting with the board. Then wake up early, but stay. Just for tonight. Let me hold you without a phone between us. Vivian looked at him for a long moment, something soft and vulnerable in her expression. Okay. They curled up on his couch, Vivian tucked against his chest, and talked in whispers about everything and nothing, about the trip they wanted to take, about Lily's growing obsession with marine biology, about the Mustang that was finally actually finished. I'm proud of you, Vivian said quietly, for keeping the garage going, for being an amazing father, for building something real in a world that makes that almost impossible. I'm proud of you too, for weathering that investigation, for not letting them break you, for being exactly who you are even when everyone's trying to make you smaller. We're quite the pair, aren't we? The best pair. She fell asleep like that, breathing slow and even against his chest, and Ethan stayed awake for a long time just holding her, feeling like after months of free-falling, he'd finally found solid ground. When he finally drifted off sometime after midnight, his last thought was that whatever came next, whatever new crisis or challenge or billionaire rival tried to tear them apart, they'd face it together. And that made all the difference. 3 months after the investigation ended, Vivian showed up at the garage on a Tuesday morning without warning, driving a car Ethan had never seen before. A vintage 1970 Dodge Charger in factory orange that rumbled like thunder and turned heads from 3 blocks away. He was under a Subaru replacing a head gasket when he heard the engine. By the time he rolled out from under the car, she was already standing in the bay, keys dangling from her finger, grinning like she'd just pulled off the greatest heist in history. "What is that?" he asked. "This is the car my father refused to let me drive when I was 17 because he said it had too much power and I had too much attitude. I bought it from the estate sale of the guy he sold it to 30 years ago. It arrived this morning. And you drove it straight here." "I drove it straight here." She tossed him the keys. "I want you to go through it, full inspection, make sure everything's running the way it should be, and then I want you to teach me how to work on it." Ethan caught the keys, feeling their weight. "You want to learn how to work on your own car?" "I want to learn how to work on this car. Specifically, because my father said I'd never understand engines, and I'd like to prove him wrong even though he's been dead for 6 years." "That's possibly the most Vivian thing you've ever said." "I know." She walked over and kissed him, quick and sure. "How's your morning looking?" "I've got 2 oil changes and a brake job scheduled, but I can move things around." "Don't, I'll wait. I brought my laptop. I can work in your office." She disappeared into the converted closet he called an office, and Ethan stood there holding the charger keys, shaking his head and smiling like an idiot. This was his life now. A CEO parking vintage muscle cars in his garage and working from a desk that wobbled because one leg was shorter than the others. He wouldn't trade it for anything. By lunchtime, he'd finished the scheduled work and started on the charger. Vivian appeared at his elbow as he was checking the timing, laptop tucked under her arm. "What's the verdict?" Whoever restored this knew what they were doing. Engines clean, compression's good, transmission shift smooth. But the carburetor's running a little rich and I'd replace the spark plug wires before you drive it too much. "Can you show me how?" So he did. They spent the next 2 hours elbow deep in the engine bay, Ethan explaining fuel-air mixture ratios while Vivian asked questions that got increasingly technical. She had grease under her nails and oil smeared across her cheek, and she looked happier than he'd seen her in weeks. "This is fun," she said, adjusting the carburetor float under his direction. "You sound surprised." "I am surprised. I thought I'd be terrible at this." "Why?" "Because I'm terrible at most things that require patience and fine motor control. I've never been good with my hands." "You're doing fine. I stripped 3 screws before you stopped me. That's called learning." He handed her a different screwdriver. "Try this one. Better grip." She worked in focused silence for a few minutes, her tongue caught between her teeth in concentration. When the carburetor was finally adjusted correctly, she straightened and wiped her hands on the rag he'd given her. "I can't believe people do this for fun. Some of us do it for a living. You know what I mean. It's so precise and unforgiving. If you do it wrong, the whole thing just doesn't work. Kind of like running a company. Running a company has more room for error than you'd think. You can fudge numbers, adjust projections, spin narratives. But this," she gestured at the engine, "this either runs or it doesn't. There's no middle ground." "That's why I like it." Vivian looked at him, something soft in her expression. "You're good at this. Not just the mechanical part, the teaching part. You're patient in ways I could never be."
You're patient when it matters.
No, I'm not. I'm demanding and difficult, and I expect everyone to keep up with me or get out of the way. And I'm stubborn and closed off, and it took a federal investigation for me to admit I needed help. We've all got flaws, Vivian. That's what makes us human. She kissed him, slow and deep, and when they broke apart, she was smiling. I love you. I love you too. Even when I strip screws? Especially then.
They finished working on the charger just as Lily got home from school. She dropped her backpack in the office and came tearing into the garage, stopping dead when she saw the orange muscle car. Whoa, whose is that? Mine, Vivian said. What do you think? Lily walked around it slowly, examining every detail. 1970. Dodge Charger RT, 440 Magnum 5.8, probably around 375 horsepower. Original or clone? Original, matching numbers. Cool. Lily opened the driver's door and peered inside. Can I sit in it? Sure. Lily climbed in and gripped the steering wheel, making engine noises that were surprisingly accurate for a 7-year-old. Ethan and Vivian watched from the garage bay, and he felt that same settling in his chest he'd been feeling more and more lately, like pieces clicking into place, like a life being built instead of just survived. She's good with her, Vivian said quietly. She likes you. That's half the battle. The other half? She respects you. That's harder to earn. Vivian leaned against him. I have a meeting with the board tomorrow. They want to discuss long-term strategy. That sounds ominous. It's not. Actually, it's good. The investigation's behind us. The stock price is up 12% from where it was before all this started, and we just closed the Vancouver deal that Ashford tried to block. She paused. They're talking about giving me a contract extension, 5 years instead of the 3 I have left. Vivian, that's incredible. It is. But it also means I'm going to be doing this for at least 5 more years. The long hours, the constant pressure, the travel. All of it. Ethan heard what she wasn't saying. And you're worried I can't handle that. I'm worried I can't handle that. I'm worried I'm going to burn out or lose myself or wake up one day and realize I traded everything that matters for a company I don't even enjoy running anymore. Do you enjoy it now? She was quiet for a long moment. Sometimes. When we close a good deal or launch a successful project or I see buildings we develop changing neighborhoods for the better. But most of the time, it's just exhausting. So don't sign the extension. Vivian turned to look at him like he'd suggested she grow wings and fly to the moon. What? Don't sign it. Or negotiate for something different. Fewer hours, more support, the ability to actually have a life outside the office. They'd never go for that. You don't know unless you ask. Vivian, you hold all the cards here. You're the one who just weathered a federal investigation and came out clean. You're the one who's grown the company 30% in 5 years. They need you more than you need them. That's not how it works. Why not? Who decides how it works? Some board of directors who've never actually built anything themselves? Some outdated idea that CEOs have to sacrifice everything to be successful? He turned her to face him. You're allowed to want a life, Vivian. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to say that 5 more years of killing yourself isn't worth it. What if they say no? Then you walk. Start your own thing. Consult. Teach. Do literally anything else that doesn't make you miserable. I can't just walk away from 1,500 employees who depend on me. You're not walking away from them. You're setting an example that work isn't supposed to consume your entire existence. That's a lesson worth teaching. Vivian stared at him, and he could see her turning it over in her mind, examining it from every angle like she did with business deals. Finally, she shook her head. I don't know if I can do that. You don't have to decide right now. Just think about it. Think about what you actually want instead of what everyone expects you to want. Lily appeared between them, having abandoned the charger for more interesting pursuits. Are you guys fighting? No, they said in unison. You look like you're fighting. Jessica says when adults talk really quiet and serious like that, it means they're either fighting or talking about Christmas presents. We're not fighting, Ethan said. We're just discussing work stuff. Boring, Lily tugged on Vivian's sleeve. Can you stay for dinner? Dad's making spaghetti and it's actually edible when he makes it. I'd love to. They ate together at Ethan's kitchen table. The 3 of them squeezed in around the small space and talked about everything and nothing. Lily dominated the conversation with a detailed explanation of her latest school project, something involving ocean currents and climate change that was way too advanced for second grade, but perfectly on brand for her. After dinner, Vivian helped with dishes while Ethan supervised Lily's homework. When Lily finally went upstairs to read before bed, Vivian and Ethan sat on the back porch, watching the last light fade from the sky. "I've been thinking about what you said," Vivian began, "about the contract extension. And
And you're right. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy in a long time. I just kept telling myself that's the price of success, that if I wanted to be taken seriously, I had to be willing to sacrifice everything else. That's what they want you to believe. Doesn't make it true. I know. But knowing it and changing it are two different things." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I don't know how to be less than what I am. I don't know how to do this job halfway." Then don't do it halfway. Do it differently. Build the career you actually want instead of the one everyone told you you're supposed to have. That sounds terrifying. Most good things do. They sat in comfortable silence, and Ethan realized this was what he wanted. Not the big moments or the grand gestures, but this. Quiet evenings on the back porch, talking about real things, being present for each other in ways that actually mattered. "I'm going to tell them I want a 4-day work week," Vivian said suddenly. "Fridays off? Non-negotiable. I'll take a pay cut if I have to." "You sure?" "No, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because you're right, I hold the cards. And if they say no, then maybe it's time to figure out what comes next." "I'm proud of you." "Don't be proud yet. I haven't actually done it." "I'm proud of you for even considering it. That's a bigger step than you think." The board meeting happened Thursday morning. Ethan didn't hear from Vivian all day, which either meant it had gone terribly or she was buried in follow-up meetings. He tried not to check his phone every 5 minutes and failed spectacularly. Lily noticed at dinner. "You're being weird." "I'm not being weird." "You've looked at your phone like 20 times and we've only been sitting here for 10 minutes. That's weird." "I'm just waiting to hear from Vivian." "About what?" "Work stuff." "Is she in trouble again?" "No, she's trying to make some changes and I don't know how it went." Lily absorbed this. "Is she going to quit her job?" "I don't know. Maybe." "Would that be bad?" "Not if it makes her happy." "Then I hope she quits. She's tired all the time, I can tell." Ethan's phone finally buzzed at 8:30. He grabbed it so fast he nearly knocked over his water glass. Vivian's text was short. "Can you talk?" He called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. "How'd it go?" "They said yes." "They said yes?" "They said yes. 4-day work week, Fridays off, same base salary, but revised bonus structure. They weren't happy about it, but they agreed." She sounded stunned. "I can't believe they actually agreed." "I can. You're irreplaceable, and they know it. I also told them I'm delegating more, promoting my CFO to COO, and bringing in a new executive team member to handle day-to-day operations. I'm keeping final decision authority, but I'm not going to be the one putting out every fire anymore." "Vivian, that's amazing." "It's terrifying, but yeah, it's also amazing." She laughed, giddy and disbelieving. "I'm getting Fridays off, Ethan. I don't even remember what a Friday off feels like." "You can spend them here, at the garage, learning how to rebuild carburetors." "That sounds perfect. Or we could take Lily somewhere, do normal family things." There was a pause on the other end. "Family things." "Yeah, is that okay, calling us that?" "More than okay." Her voice went soft. "I like the sound of that." They talked for another hour, making plans, processing the relief, letting themselves believe that maybe life didn't have to be a constant fight to keep your head above water. Maybe it could actually be good. When they hung up, Lily appeared in the doorway in her pajamas. "She didn't quit?" "No, but she's working less. A lot less." "Good. Now she can come over more and teach me about business stuff." "What business stuff?" "I don't know. How to negotiate and make deals and tell people no when they're being unreasonable." "That seems useful." "You're 7. Doesn't mean I can't learn." Lily climbed onto the couch next to him. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Are you going to marry her?" "Why does everyone keep asking me that?" "Because it's obvious. You love her, she loves you, she's good with me, you're good with her. What else is there?" "There's a lot else. Logistics and timing and making sure we're doing it for the right reasons. Those sound like excuses." "They're not excuses. They're legitimate concerns." Lily gave him a look that was far too knowing for someone who still believed in the tooth fairy. Just don't wait too long. Jessica says when you find someone who makes you happy, you should hold on tight and not let stupid stuff get in the way. Jessica talks too much. Jessica's usually right. Ethan pulled her into a hug, pressing his face into her hair. When did you get so smart? I was always smart. You just finally noticed. Wotium. Friday morning, Vivian showed up at the garage at 9, wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt, looking lighter than Ethan had seen her in months. First Friday off in 6 years, she announced. What should we do? I have 3 cars scheduled for service. I know. I looked at your calendar. That's why I'm here. Put me to work. So they worked together. Vivian changed oil on a Toyota, while Ethan replaced brake pads on a Ford. She asked questions constantly, taking notes on her phone about proper torque specifications and the difference between synthetic and conventional oil. By lunchtime, they'd finished all 3 jobs, and Vivian had grease under her nails and looked absurdly pleased with herself. I did real work, she said, staring at her hands. You do real work every day. No, I make decisions and sign documents and attend meetings. That's not the same as actually fixing something with my hands. You're fixing a company. That counts. Maybe. But this feels different, more immediate. I can see the result right in front of me. They grabbed sandwiches from the deli down the street and ate in the garage office, sitting on the ancient couch that sagged in the middle. Vivian propped her feet up on the desk and looked more relaxed than Ethan had ever seen her. I could get used to this, she said. Working in a garage? Having Fridays off, not checking my email every 30 seconds, doing things that aren't directly related to quarterly earnings. She turned to look at him. Thank you for pushing me to ask for this. You did the asking. I just suggested it was possible. Still, I wouldn't have done it without you. They finished eating in comfortable silence, and Ethan realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd felt this settled, like everything in his life had finally stopped fighting against itself and started working together. I've been thinking, Vivian said carefully, about next steps. What kind of next steps? The kind where we stop pretending this is casual, where we make actual plans instead of just seeing where things go. Ethan's heart kicked against his ribs. What kind of plans? I don't know exactly, but I know I want you in my life permanently. I know I want to be part of Lily's life as she grows up. I know I want to wake up next to you more often than not. She paused. I'm not proposing. I'm saying I want to build something real here. Something that lasts. I want that too. Yeah? Yeah. He took her hand. I've been thinking the same thing, about how to make this work long term, about what it looks like when we're not just dating, but actually building a life together. And what does it look like? I don't know all the details, but I know it involves you spending more time here, maybe getting a place closer to the garage instead of downtown. I know it involves me being more involved in your world, not just you coming to mine. I know it involves Lily having stability and knowing we're committed to this. Vivian was quiet for a moment. I own a house. What? I own a house in Ballard. I bought it 4 years ago as an investment property, and I've been renting it out, but the tenant's lease is up next month. It's 10 minutes from here, 3 bedrooms, garage, backyard. She looked at him. I could move there instead of renewing the lease on my downtown apartment. You do that? I do that. If you think this is heading where I think it's heading. Ethan kissed her instead of answering with words. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. Move to Ballard. Be 10 minutes away instead of 30. Let's see what happens when we're actually part of each other's daily lives instead of just weekend visits. Okay. 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 She smiled. This is crazy. We've only been together for 5 months. I know. Normal people wait longer before making decisions like this. We're not normal people. No, we're really not. Vivian moved into the Ballard house 6 weeks later, and within a month it became impossible to tell where her life ended and Ethan's began. She kept clothes at his place. He had a drawer at hers. Lily had her own room in both houses and treated the arrangement like it was the most natural thing in the world. Friday afternoons became their routine. Vivian at the garage, learning how to rebuild engines and diagnose problems, asking questions that got increasingly sophisticated. Ethan teaching her everything he knew, watching her transform from someone who'd never held a wrench to someone who could swap out a starter motor without supervision. I'm thinking about taking a mechanics class, she said one Friday in December, lying under the Mustang and replacing the exhaust system. You're already learning from the best, Ethan said. Your modesty is overwhelming. I'm serious. Why pay for a class when I can teach you for free? Because I want the certification. I want to actually know what I'm doing instead of just following your instructions. You know what you're doing. I know what you've taught me. That's different. She slid out from under the car, her hair covered in dust. I'm enrolling in the community college program, night classes twice a week. It starts in January. Ethan stared at her. You're serious. Why wouldn't I be serious? I like this. I'm good at it, and I want to be better. Vivian, you run a multi-million-dollar company, and I want to learn how to rebuild a transmission. People are allowed to have interests outside their careers, Ethan. You're the one who taught me that. She was right. He had taught her that. Or maybe she'd taught him. Either way, watching her discover something she loved outside the corporate world she'd lived in for so long felt like watching someone learn to breathe again. Christmas came quietly. They spent it at Ethan's house. Him, Vivian, Lily, and Jessica, who'd somehow become an essential part of their strange little family. They ate too much, played board games that got unnecessarily competitive, and Lily opened presents with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been promised exactly what she wanted and wasn't disappointed. Vivian gave her a complete set of marine biology textbooks that were way too advanced for a 7-year-old. Lily cried with happiness and immediately started reading the first one. Later, after Lily was asleep and Jessica had gone home, Ethan and Vivian sat on the couch surrounded by wrapping paper and the debris of the day. This was perfect, Vivian said. It was pretty good. Better than any Christmas I've had in years, maybe ever. That's a low bar. Maybe. But it's true. She leaned against him. I have something for you. I was waiting until we were alone. She handed him a small box. Inside was a key. It's to the Ballard house, she explained. Your own key. So you don't have to knock anymore, so you know you're welcome anytime. Vivian, I know we haven't talked about living together officially, and I'm not pushing for that, but I want you to know that when you're ready, there's space for you, for both of you. Ethan looked at the key, feeling its weight. I have something for you too. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to her. She unfolded it carefully. It was a deed. To the garage, with her name added to the ownership. Ethan, I can't. You can. You saved this place. You believed in it when I'd almost given up. You're part of this business whether the paperwork says so or not. This just makes it official. But this was your father's, and now it's ours, yours and mine, together. He took her hands. I'm not good at grand gestures or romantic speeches, but I know I want to build a life with you. I know I want Lily to grow up seeing what it looks like when two people choose each other every single day. And I know I want to make this official in every way that matters. Vivian was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Are you proposing? Not yet, but I'm saying I want to, soon, when the moment's right. What if the moment's right now? Ethan laughed. We're sitting in a living room full of wrapping paper at 11 p.m. on Christmas. That's not exactly romantic. It's perfect. This whole ridiculous, messy, wonderful thing we've built, it's perfect exactly as it is. Then yes, eventually, when I have an actual ring and a better plan than just blurting it out on my couch. She kissed him, tasting like tears and laughter, and everything good he'd spent years thinking he didn't deserve. I love you, she said. I love you too. We're really doing this. We're really doing this. Well, spring came slowly to Seattle, bringing rain and then more rain, and finally, eventually, sun. The garage thrived. Ethan hired 2 more mechanics to handle the increased workload from the Mercer Industries contract and 3 other companies that had signed on after hearing about the quality of his work. Vivian completed her mechanics certification with honors and started spending Fridays teaching a women's automotive basics class at the community college. She was terrible at it at first, too impatient, too demanding, too much herself, but she got better, learned to slow down, learned to meet people where they were instead of expecting them to keep up. Lily finished 2nd grade at the top of her class and announced she wanted to study marine engineering when she grew up, which seemed appropriately specific for an 8-year-old. And Ethan learned that letting people in didn't make him weak, that accepting help wasn't failure, that building a life with someone meant trusting them with the broken parts as much as the good ones. He proposed on a Saturday in June, in the garage, while they were working on the Charger together. Nothing fancy, no grand gestures, just him and Vivian and grease under their nails and a question he'd been carrying for months. Marry me. Vivian looked up from the carburetor she was adjusting. What? Marry me.
Build this life with me officially. Let's stop pretending we're anything other than permanent. You don't have a ring. I have a ring. It's in my toolbox. I've been carrying it around for 2 weeks waiting for the perfect moment. And then I realized this is the perfect moment. You and me in this garage, fixing things, building things, this is who we are. He pulled the ring from the toolbox. Nothing fancy, just a simple band with a small diamond, and held it out. Vivian stared at it, then at him, then started laughing through tears. You're proposing to me in your garage. Our garage. And yes, this is insane. Is that a yes? Of course it's a yes, you idiot. She grabbed his face and kissed him hard. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, which felt like some kind of sign that they were actually doing something right for once. Lily appeared in the garage doorway, took one look at them, and said, "Finally, Jessica owes me $10. You bet on this?" Ethan asked. Jessica said you'd wait until her birthday in August. I said you'd do it before July. I was right. She came over and examined the ring critically. It's pretty, not too fancy. I like it. High praise, Vivian said. So what happens now? Do you move in with us? Do we move in with you? Do we get a completely different house? We figure it out, Ethan said. Together. Good, because I have opinions about the house situation and you're both going to want to hear them. They spent the rest of the day working on the charger and making plans and letting themselves believe that this strange, unlikely thing they'd built actually had a future. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Vivian sat on his back porch watching the stars come out. I can't believe you proposed in the garage, Vivian said. Where else would I propose? Literally anywhere else, a restaurant, the beach, somewhere romantic. The garage is romantic. It's where we fell in love, where you learned to fix things, where we built something real together. When you put it that way, it sounds almost poetic. I have my moments. She leaned against him, the ring catching the light from the kitchen window. I never thought I'd have this. The relationship, the family, the life outside work that actually matters more than work. I thought I was too difficult, too demanding, too much. You're not too much. You're exactly right. You're biased. Completely. Doesn't make it less true. They sat in comfortable silence, and Ethan thought about everything that had brought them here. The storm, the Jaguar, the diner, the investigation. All of it leading to this moment, to this life, to this strange and wonderful family they were building together. You know what I learned? He said. What? That broken things don't have to stay broken. That with the right person and enough work and the willingness to actually try, you can rebuild pretty much anything into something better than it was before. That's very philosophical for a mechanic. I'm a mechanic who's engaged to a CEO who takes night classes in automotive repair. Philosophy is kind of our thing now. Vivian laughed. I suppose it is. 6 months later, they got married in the garage on a Saturday afternoon, surrounded by cars in various states of repair and everyone they loved. Lily was the best man, which she declared was way cooler than being a flower girl. Jessica cried. The officiant had to pause twice because people kept asking technical questions about the Mustang in the background. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely perfect. And afterward, when everyone had left and it was just the three of them, they sat on the hood of the Charger eating leftover wedding cake with their fingers, laughing about how nothing had gone according to plan and how that was somehow exactly right. You know what's funny? Vivian said. 5 years ago, if someone had told me I'd marry a mechanic and spend my weekends rebuilding engines, I would have thought they were insane. 5 years ago, if someone had told me I'd fall in love with a CEO who could negotiate billion-dollar deals and also gap spark plugs, I would have said the same thing. We're kind of ridiculous. The best kind of ridiculous. Lily, who'd been quiet for once, looked up at them. So what happens now? Now we keep going, Ethan said. We work, we build things, we take care of each other. We figure it out as we go. That's it? That's the plan? That's the plan. Sounds good to me. And it was good, not perfect. They still fought about stupid things, still struggled with balancing work and life, still had moments where everything felt too hard. But they kept choosing each other, kept showing up, kept rebuilding the broken parts until they worked again. Because that's what love was, Ethan had learned. Not some grand gesture or perfect moment, but the daily decision to fix what's broken instead of throwing it away. The willingness to get your hands dirty. The faith that with enough work and the right person beside you, anything could be rebuilt into something beautiful. The garage, their garage now, stood solid against the Seattle rain, its lights burning bright long after dark, a beacon for anyone who needed something fixed. And inside, surrounded by tools and oil-stained concrete and the smell of possibility, three people who'd found each other in a storm kept building the life they'd chosen, one day and one repair at a time. It wasn't the life any of them had planned, but it was the life they'd built together, and that made all the difference.